Welcome to Locked It Down Sports. I'm your host, Locke Hoover, and you follow me on X at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on X. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports. And today on the show, starting pitching spots are all but locked up on this team. The power is in Kirk's hands. Another blow for this organization, and the frenzy has already started. And that's exactly where we're starting the top of the show today. And that frenzy is, of course, NFL agency. As to me, it's always interesting to see where teams are going to go, what their plan is, what direction they going to go, who they cutting, who they signing, how much cap do they have to work with. And of course, it's different for every team in that sense, but also in this sense, that's different for every team. Some teams just have to pay more. And by that, I mean the Cleveland Browns as a perfect example. Myles Garrett wanted to be traded or released so he could go play for a different franchise, a different team, a winner. And all of a sudden, Cleveland goes, "Hey, Myles, here's $40 million per year and $122.5 million guaranteed. You in?" You know what? Now that you mentioned it, I like Cleveland. I like Cleveland. I'm happy of playing for this franchise. That's what happened, being the highest paid non-quarterback in the league now. A 40-year, 123.5 guaranteed. Yeah. And that's the NFL in a sense. Some teams just have to pay more depending on where you are as a franchise. The Falcons, the Browns, the Panthers, the Jags, just to name a few, have to pay more to get a free agent to come there. Why? To me, it's who the franchise is. Not consistently winning. It's how it's run. It's how it's operated. It's the team successes and failures over the course of a long period of time. Then you've got teams like the Eagles, Chiefs, 49ers, Bills. They don't have to overpay for players to make their team better. They don't have to pay them $16 million instead of $14 million or 18 as opposed to 16, There's a difference of these franchises, of how they're run, how they're operated. Why? They're good. They're consistently in the playoffs. And that matters to some guys, unless it's, you know what? $40 million a year, actually, I can play here. I'm good with that. I'm in with that, And I think that's one of the big things with NFL free agency, especially when this is my opportunity to get paid. This is my chance to get that second contract and make, I'm going to call it big boy money, because they're still making real money, good money, obviously, compared to the regular person. But their chance to make generational money, life-changing money, they're going to go do it at all expenses. Yeah. You want your team to get better. You hope your team gets better in free agency. It's just different levels. It really is, based on who you are as a franchise. And I feel like it's always been that way, right? But it's the ebbs and flows and the changes of it. There's different tiers in the NFL when it comes to ownership and, of course, running a franchise, good franchises, and winning. And that plays a big part in NFL free agency, in my opinion. Now, speaking of free agency, there's a bunch of signings. There's a bunch of changing of quarterback spots. So where does that leave Kirk Cousins? As you might know, may not, Cousins has a full no trade clause with the Falcons, and it would cost the Falcons more to cut him. There's this looming bonus, this $10 million roster bonus that's coming up. And I think the Falcons are going to pay him that $10 million roster bonus. I think here's a few reasons why. Let me try that. I think they're prepared to have him on their roster. It was a budgetary thing. We're prepared to have him on our roster in 2026, and he's going to be our starter, obviously based on the signing from last year. We know that's not where they're at now, but it was that 2 years of, you know what? This is a 2-year deal. At least he's going to be in our roster. He's going to be our starting quarterback for at least 2 years, and then we'll see what happens with Michael Penix. Of course, that all changed, but that was the outlook, I think. Is it costing some of us now? Absolutely, because we've got this rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, and we can't be active and make our team better in free agency because we've got this big Kirk Cousins contract. Now, if they cut him after the 2026 season, they'll get back a portion of wherever he signed his next contract. So he signs for $5 million. Let's just say he signs for $10 million, $8 million on another team. The Falcons will get some of that money back from the last 2 years of his deal, from that 4-year deal. So there's some relief there on that extent. And I think Kirk Cousins knows where he stands, as Michael Penix is your starting quarterback. And Kirk, you're backing up Michael Penix. Whether you like it or not, you're backing him up. Yes, you're the big money maker, but you're still backing him up. And Albert Breer's come out and said this, and I've said this as well. Albert Breer said Kirk wants to start, and I said this earlier in my podcast, previous podcast. If this is true, it's in Kirk Cousins' hands. I mean, it's in his hands to do what he wants to do. Because the seats are getting less and less when it comes to the quarterback carousel. I mean, the Raiders already got their quarterback in Geno. They traded for Geno. Seattle went up and signed Sam Darnold. So that's out. Those two are out. What are the Steelers doing? I mean, they signed Mason Rudolph. Is he your starter? I mean, the Jets went and signed Fields. Is Fields really your starter? I mean, that's a good look-see for the Jets to see if Justin Fields can actually be your starter. I don't think Mason Rudolph's your starter in Pittsburgh, so Pittsburgh's still open. There's been talk about the Browns, with Kevin Stefanski, but they went and traded for Kenny Pickett. I don't feel like you're not going to go trade for Kenny Pickett. You trade a 5th-round pick if he's not your guy. I know you got Deshaun Watson, but he's out, obviously. Are you going to go trade an asset for Kenny Pickett to be your starter? Maybe. I mean, to be your backup. I don't see that. But there is some interest. So I mean, those two teams, that's really it at this point to me of potential options for Kirk Cousins to go be traded to if he were to veto his no trade clause. See, it's in his hands. I don't think it would be about that much. Give the Falcons a fourth, fifth, sixth round pick. Here he is. Here, take him. Take him for sixth. Yeah, you have to take some money, obviously. Take that contract. We'll take a fifth. Yeah, that's it. But once again, it's in Cousins' hands of how bad does he really want to start next year? Is he fine riding the bench, knowing he's going to get cut in 2026, and then he might not be able to then he might not start because he was a backup last year. I mean, you don't know. I mean, he's getting older. He's getting a year older, obviously. There's a lot up in the air with Cousins of what he thinks, what he wants to do for the rest of his career. Is he cool just chilling? And that might be what happened. But if he wants to start, the ball is in his court saying yay or nay of I'm willing to be traded. Now, that's a wait and see. Hopefully the Falcons can get something for him. That would be great. It would free up some of that cap space, and they'd pick up another draft pick, even if it is late. I mean, we've been bad at drafting players, but you know what? It's another dart to throw at the board, you know? That's all you can ask for this Falcons team because there's very little trust, in my opinion, when it comes to drafting. But you know what? Another lottery ticket, why not? It can only help. Someone who's not really helped their case, but I don't think it's really going to matter. That's the Braves' fourth and fifth starting spots. You know, all along, I've going into spring training, and we're about midway, almost 3/4 the way through spring training now. Looks like your fourth and fifth starters are going to be Grant Holmes and Ian Anderson. I mean, I think Holmes is pretty much locked up that fourth spot in the rotation. So I want to talk about Ian Anderson. And it's the age-old saying, spring training stats mean nothing, but they also kind of matter depending on who you are, some guys, you know. And I say that if Chris Sale gets hit hard, had a bad spring training, you don't blink. You feel okay. It's Sale. He's fine. He's healthy. He's good. But when it comes to Ian Anderson, it's a little bit concerning. Even spring training numbers, he's your fifth starter. And here's the wacky numbers. His ERA, 1.13 ERA. Yeah, you take the 1.13, right? But he has a 6.21 FIP and a 7.12 XFIP. Just know those numbers are bad, okay? Just know they're bad. You can go look them up. They're bad. That's not good. He also, this isn't good either, 13 walks to 6 strikeouts in 12 innings in spring training, hitting 92-93 with the fastball. You're walking that many guys in spring training has me a little bit worried, especially when you're not facing full Major League Baseball lineups. You're not facing real lineups. You might be facing on that day 3, maybe 4 guys. If you travel on the road, yeah, you're getting probably a full Major League Baseball lineup. But on the whole, you're not seeing 9 major leaguers in that lineup. You're seeing 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6. and you've arced 13 in spring training. That makes me nervous. It's going to be a lot of base runners when he starts, and it's, I hope I can get 5 and a third with the lead or the game tied to give us a chance to win the ball game. Is Ian Anderson every fifth day. The Braves are gonna need him early too. They're gonna need a fifth starter early in the season. Maybe either that first or second time through the rotation as well. So it's not like they can put someone else in the bullpen put him in the bullpen for 2 weeks based on the off days. No, they're gonna need him early. So it's gonna be interesting. Elder hasn't pitched well. AJ Smith-Solver, not well, and both those guys have options, so they've got that going for them. I think the interesting thing is going to be once Pitcher Sharda comes back. If Holmes pitches like he did last year, I think it's going to be hard to take him out of the rotation. It is. I mean, if he pitches solid. Say he pitches a 4.5 ERA, you're like, all right, as your 5 guy, sure. But the tricky part about all this is there's still a lot of bullpen questions of how that shakes out. And Holmes could be more valuable in the bullpen as a multi-inning guy, that high leverage situation guy coming in that 6th, 7th inning and you pitch 2. Maybe you come in and you pitch the 7th inning in a tie ball game, or you're up 1 or down 1, whatever you're at. There's a lot of value in that, being a dominant reliever, good reliever that can pitch multiple innings. And like I said, a lot of that depends on how the bullpen shakes out, how they're throwing once they get into the regular season, once they get into April, of what that is. And walking guys, is Ian Anderson fit as your long man? He's your last guy in the bullpen. You probably would not feel good with him coming in and pitching high leverage situations. We're down 4 in the 4th, and Swelling-Bach or Ronaldo Lopez had a bad start. Ian Anderson, we need you to eat innings and hopefully hold them right there, and maybe the offense can come back, tie this up, and we can win the ball game. That might be the situation. Or is it maybe a Buck Farmer who could be your long guy? And then, so there's so many questions that are still being sorted out. I still think it's going to be Holmes and Ian Anderson for the first month until Strider comes back. And then you reassess where you are in the bullpen and in the starting rotation, because it's interesting for a good as a team as I think we're going to be, the Braves. There's a lot of question marks in spring training, which is very interesting, especially on the staff. I understood the rotation with Holmes, Ian Anderson, kind of Bryce Elder, kind of AJ Smith-Solver, but Holmes and Anderson are out options, and the Braves really value the options parts, which I get. It continues to extend your depth as a staff, as a bullpen, and as a starting rotation. Sure, I understand that. But the bullpen's the interesting part. We're signing a lot of guys to non-roster minor league deals, seeing what sticks, what their stuff looks like, and then boom, you're going to be our starter. Are you going to be in our bullpen? And that's really what they've done, which is very, very interesting and a very different approach this year from Alex Anthopoulos than what he's done in the future. Speaking of the future, you can ask that about the future of the Tampa Bay Rays. And what I mean by that is their playing location, as they won't be playing at their stadium this year, home stadium, the Trop, because of the hurricane that damaged the stadium. So they're going to be playing at the Yankees spring training home in Tampa. Theirs is in Tampa as well. So it's all right, cool. We play in Tampa this year. We get our new stadium built. We're ready to rock and roll. Well, about that. So they're supposed to play in, like I said, in the new stadium in 2028. But those plans have been stopped and will not happen. They now plan to fix Tropicana Field for the 2026 season. To me, this is the last you'll see of the Rays in Tampa. I mean, if you don't build a new stadium for them now, you're never going to, and they're going to leave. I mean, they're an old stadium. Their Trop's not going to play this year because it's banged up from the hurricane. They got initially a new stadium approved. So cool. That's where we're going. We're going to play in our new stadium. That got kiboshed. Now's the opportunity, if there ever was one, to build a new stadium or leave. And I feel bad for that franchise. You play in a dumpy, crappy stadium. You struggle to get any fan support, except for when you're good. Excuse me. I mean, when I mean good, you're in the playoffs. You've been good for a lot, and they won't even show up for games, even as a good baseball team. It's just unfortunate the owner and the franchise, they don't really want to invest. So there's a lot of, I won't say there's a lot of options. There's potential options for them to go. Obviously, going back up to Montreal, where the Expos, left. That stadium's still there. Or would it be a new? Would they get a new stadium? Nashville's been a big pull of trying to get teams to Nashville. They even got a hat and a logo. It'd be the Nashville Stars, black hat with an NS on there. Hat actually looks pretty sharp, I must say. It looks sharp. Big pull from Nashville. Portland is an option too. That's been they've done retro renderings of a potential stadium there. And then Orlando, who's kind of been rumored, and hopefully it's Orlando or even Portland, really. I think it would be two good spots for franchises. Now, would they realign and move a team? They wouldn't keep the Portland team in the AL East, would they? Maybe you shift one of those other teams. I don't know. But those are some teams, some cities that have been mentioned. Like I said, Nashville's already had an investment group in there. Salt Lake City's kind of outskirts been mentioned. Las Vegas was mentioned. Obviously, that's off the table now that the A's are going there. But it's a fluid situation, as they like to say. And it's really unfortunate for Tampa, as they're in a tough spot. And I really do hope they get a new stadium and they get out of Tampa, because that is a crappy situation altogether. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at LockItUpMedia. That's LockItUpMedia on Twitter. You've listened to Lock It Down Sports. I'm Locke Hoover. I'll talk to you next week.